Hey everybody, Jim Edwards here, and welcome back to the Sales Copywriting and Content Marketing Hacks podcast. Today we have episode 110 of our show. Can you believe it, Stu? We have done 110 episodes of our podcast.
I know,
That's pretty
and
cool.
Talking about sales copywriting and content marketing hacks.
Well, there you go.
Go figure.
It only took you until like episode 50 to be able to rattle that off without messing it up and doing different names for what we were doing. I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
good job.
Took a while.
So
doesn't roll off the tongue very well, Jim.
Sales Copywriting and Content Marketing Hacks podcast. What?
Okay.
What?
Maybe it does for you.
That's because I made it up. So what are we talking about today, Stu?
Okay. So how do you set yourself apart as an industry expert in whatever you are doing?
Okay.
So it was a good question. It was a good question that we got on the Sales Copywriting Content Marketing Hacks Facebook group, which you should be a member of if you're not.
It's free to join, but you do have to fill out a 3-question application. That's how we keep out the freaks and the weirdos. Basically, we ask really hard questions like, who's your target audience and why do you want to get better at sales copy? But apparently people are incapable of filling that out. So there you go.
It's all right. You still have what? 20,000 people on there?
Oh, I think there's more, but there's a bunch. Yeah. And it's a really good group. And so we don't just let anybody in. And so there's a lot of good stuff happens in there. Okay. So the question is, say the question again.
It is setting yourself apart as an industry expert.
Okay. So let's talk about for a moment, what is an expert? Because that's where I think people get hung up. Some people think that in fact, we've got a bunch of people here with us live. Let's get some response going in the question and answer box. In your opinion, what is an expert? You guys in the Q&A box, tell us, what is an expert? What qualifies as an expert? How do you qualify to be an expert or an industry expert? Bob says someone who claims they are an expert. Okay, so you're going to claim it. You don't have to prove it. You're just going to claim it. That's what Bob says.
A lot of people do that, Bob.
A lot of people do that, and they are found out very quickly to not be experts. So you got to be good at something. You're an expert at that. Okay. So Stu, while we're waiting for, so Carlin says someone who's actually sold their expertise for money. Expert knows the stuff inside and out. Debbie says someone who has more knowledge gained over years. But what happens if something changes real fast and nobody knows what to do, and somebody figures it out, but they just figured it out last week, but they know more than everybody else? Are they an expert?
And they're only 16 years old.
And they're only 16 years old. Does that make them an expert? I think of that Palmer Luckey kid who basically invented the Oculus Quest. In his 20s, he became a billionaire but in his teens, he started developing that. Vicky says proven track record of good results in their field. Debbie says adaptability. Bob says you learn something and keep on learning about it.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
I like that one a lot. Bob, you win too. You just win our congratulations and adulation. We do not send out swag like we do over on the Money Madness show. Vicky says there are always exceptions. And VJ says someone who's 2 steps ahead. So that's like that Frank Abagnale, the Catch Me If You Can guy, who taught at a college and stuff, basically just staying 1 chapter ahead of the rest of the class. And so to me, my definition of an expert, there's 2 types of experts. There's an expert in a single subject matter, like you're an expert in, a good example, when I started in the mortgage business, I was fortunate in that the mortgage business was going through some tumult, which means there was a lot of stuff going on. One of the things was the way the FHA loans were calculated, the mortgage insurance was calculated, changed. And so nobody understood how to figure out what people's monthly payments were going to be. So I sat down with one of the underwriters, had her explain it to me. I came up with a sheet to help people, a little one pager that showed people how to calculate it. And then I went out into the marketplace and started teaching real estate agents one-on-one how to calculate payments so they could quickly pre-qualify people and see what kind of house they might be able to have. So I was an expert instantly in FHA mortgage insurance. However, the second thing is what you might consider an authentic master expert type thing is the person who has done mortgage for years and years and years and just knows stuff that other people don't, and so can react better, faster, and easier to situations, and they just know things. So you can be a subject matter expert pretty quickly, but to be an industry expert, I think takes a little bit more time. Now, internet years are different than normal years, but I would say to be an industry expert takes, we're talking a subject matter expert can be done in days, weeks, and months. An industry expert, in my opinion, is then you're talking about years type stuff, because you're just applying experience with all kinds of stuff. So I've spoken a bunch. Stu, what are your thoughts?
No, I would agree with you 100%. And also the continued learning and staying relevant is the big, especially for the industry expert. If you're going to do this for a long time, there's obviously changes that occur throughout time, whether it's technology changes or just environmental changes. So you staying relevant with all the newest trends is very important too. So I would say experience, knowledge, continuing education, always learning, and staying relevant.
Yeah. And I think that is, I talk about the 3 hats that you can wear. That's part of being an expert and an industry expert. You can wear the 3 hats. The 3 hats are sometimes you're the student, sometimes you're the reporter, and sometimes you're the expert. So a true industry expert is not afraid to tell people, you know what, something's changed and I'm having to learn about this right now. Or something's changed, here's what I see coming on the horizon. So they're comfortable and confident and competent and are able to put their ego in check to say, look, I'm wearing my student hat right now. I'm wearing my I'm wearing the reporter hat right now. I don't know what the answer is, but I know the questions to ask. And that's part of being an industry expert, is knowing if you don't know the answers, you know the questions to ask and you know where to look for the answers, whether it's to other people or in your own experience. Carlin says relationships with key players in an industry too, to a degree. I think that's not, being an industry expert. I think if you are truly an expert, you will naturally develop relationships with people. But there are some people that have a whole lot of relationships, but not a whole lot of depth. And they're supported by kind of like the emperor's new clothes type thing. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but yes, I think that you will naturally develop relationships if you are truly an industry expert.
I would agree, sir. 100%.
Okay. Well,
no, I really have nothing to add to that. I think it's a great time for Mr. Pickles to chime in.
Well, Mr. Pickles wants to know what you think, Stu. I mean, come on. We've only been going for 7 minutes, and we can't be done with the podcast already. I mean, we've answered the question, but what the hell else are we going to talk about?
Well, let's do this. Let's talk about ways to stay relevant.
Okay. Well, why don't you take this one first? Because what ends up happening is I feel like you're the puppet master. It's like, hey, let's wind Jim up a little bit. Let's throw in a dime and see what he does.
That's what I do.
Oh,
but I will say that staying relevant, doesn't require a great amount of effort other than just keeping your eyes open and your ears open to new things that you see happening, especially today when we're a media consumed market. I mean, if you think about a person's life in a day, it starts off as looking at a little screen, going to a medium screen, going back to a big screen, looking at your little screen at the same time. That is a day in the life of a human being right now.
Yep.
So,
and I think you're absolutely right. What sprung into my mind with what you just said is that to be an expert requires consistency. It's not something that it's like working out. You can't, working out is like the perfect allegory for life and for anything, is that you can't do it once a month. You can't do it once every 6 months. It's something you have to do daily. And if you do it daily, you get stronger, you get faster, you stay on top of your game. One of the things I like to do is I'll spend 15 minutes a day. I have a couple of different Google alerts set up, and I will spend 15 minutes a day looking at what shows up for those Google alerts. One of them is around artificial intelligence, and the other one is around legal marijuana for investment purposes. I ain't hitting it, but by golly, I'll put my money in it if I think I can make some dough. So those I spend, 15 minutes a day, usually in the smallest room of the house where I have screen in hand, entertaining myself. And I will, I'll sit there and read stuff. And that's where I pay attention to that. So my point is that it doesn't take a ton of time. Another way to stay relevant is to publish something every day. Do a video, do an article, do a meme, do a tweet, do something. And I think that's important because that keeps your spear sharp.
Absolutely.
And the other thing, and VJ just asked something, what about timeless fundamental principles versus transient shiny objects? Well, that's, again, if you understand principles, and so for example, like principles of advertising, principles of copywriting, principles of, hooks, stories, offers, creating offers, then you're able to adapt those fundamentals to changing conditions. So in a previous Jim and Stu show, we talked about the 6-word story. We then talked about why would it be important to be able to tell a 6-word story. And immediately we talked about mobile advertising, mobile, just where people, you need to do more with less. And there's other things that translates into headlines, email subject lines, all these things. When you understand that principle of how to hook people, you can then apply that across all these different things. So in this case, the fundamental principle that's never going to change is hooking people with, just hooking people to grab their attention. Then the shiny object or the thing that's changing. Anybody remember MySpace? Anybody remember Overture? Anybody remember GoTo.com? Anybody remember, when Google AdWords was the only way to get traffic? And then along came Facebook, and you've got all these different sites coming and going. Someday Facebook will still be here, but somebody's going to come along and there's going to be an alternative to Facebook. It's going to get broken up. Something's going to happen. And that's where you got to understand, okay, this is a new platform, but the principles that I know will never change. A true authentic expert says, okay, how do I apply the principles I know work to this new thing? As opposed to people who are like, oh, okay, I'm going to buy that bright, shiny object and I'm going to, I'm going to get rich from that bright, shiny object. They don't understand the principles. They don't understand anything around it. They just know I'm going to buy this bright, shiny object and I'm going to get rich. And they might for a time. I'm going to tell you an old man story right now. So back in the early 2000s, when blogs first came out, Google, there was a mechanism that was built into blogs that would, when you posted to your blog, Google really wanted to index blog content really fast because they wanted to have the most up-to-date database. So you would, when you posted to your blog, you could have it ping Google, and it would literally ping Google. It would say, hey, there's something new on this blog. You should come crawl it because there's something good. And you could get your page indexed in Google in like 5 minutes. It was, in some cases, it was faster. It was almost instantaneous. So people, this is about the same time that Google was doing this, came out with AdSense, and people were doing these AdSense sites, and they were making a bunch of money by creating sites that had tons of Google advertising on it. And then they would get people to come to their site, click on it, and they would make money. So there was this whole thing about something called blog and ping, that was the thing. When you posted a blog post, it would ping Google and you would get stuff indexed. Well, these guys came out with this software called Blog. It was Blog and Ping something, I don't remember what it was, but basically what it would do is it would create this crap content and it would annoy the absolute shit out of Google. You know, ping, 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 ping. They're blogging and pinging like 5,000 pages in an hour. Okay. And so what happened was, for a while, it was really cool. It was crazy cool. You could get a page indexed in Google in like 2 minutes, and there were people that were making a ton of money. Like it was the convergence of stuff. But I told the guys straight up when they asked me to promote, I said, this won't work 90 days from now. I'm not coming anywhere near this. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. I said, any type of exploit like this, Google's not stupid. Right now, they're letting it's fulfilling a purpose for them. Because, and again, this is a pattern that you see when these new companies come out. They want to get any market traction they can. They want to make as much money any way they can to up their share value, while they're bringing in corporate advertisers or corporate, more legit people. And as soon as they replace the income they're making from the Wild West, they exile the Wild West people and they've replaced it with the corporate stupid money. It's the same thing Google did. It's the same thing Facebook did. It's the same thing anybody does. Instagram, all of them. So the point is that if you understand principles, you can apply principles to anything. If you understand patterns, then you can see what's coming. You've been through it enough, or you've studied it enough to be able to see the writing on the wall, literally, of what's going on, and be able to take these disparate things and make a coherent picture out of them about what's going on, what's going to happen, why this is happening, and where it's going. So that's part of being an authentic expert, is having enough experience under your belt to be able to say, this is just the same pattern repeating itself with a few different players. And you can also see, you can see the bright, shiny object crap coming from a mile away. You can see something like, for example, do you remember when Facebook, you were able to see more of people's personal data, like their email address and other stuff? So there were people that came out with these scrapers where they were able to go in to all these different groups, and they were able to scrape all the members of all the groups, turn them into an audience, and then upload that audience into Facebook to create groups that they could advertise to.
Damn.
And it was a great thing. But again, I said, when they asked me, guys came to me, hey, do you want to promote this? No, because this is going to go away. There is no way. Big companies will only let you resell their data back to them for a certain amount of time, and until they figure out what you're doing, or it doesn't serve a purpose anymore, and they smack you on the PP and say, no more. So I'm kind of going off on tangents, but it's when you understand this stuff and you've been through it enough, you can see what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, you digressed a little bit there, but it was still relevant in a way that you do have to look at the big picture, and a good way to do that is to look where companies are making these small changes, and you can kind of see a trend that you might want to pay attention to. For instance, think about the first search engine you ever used.
Alta Vista. You remember Alta Vista,
Web crawler.
Yep.
Excite.
Web crawler.
Yeah. Netscape, I think, had one.
Yeah, Netscape.
But I remember one of the first ones I ever used was Yahoo. And guess what? They're still around.
Yeah.
They're not the big boy anymore. But they're still around. I still have a Yahoo store. They've kind of evolved into almost like a GoDaddy store search engine combo. They're just kind of they're all over the place.
News, entertainment, all that.
Yeah. So, but they have remained relevant to a degree because they just kind of found their niche and then bumped into like too many niches. Yeah, that's probably why they're oversaturated a little bit. But we can do that to ourselves too if we're not disciplined, like Jim was saying. To just say, yeah, this is just a trend that's not going to last, and hopefully you're right. But there's nothing wrong with coming in on it a few months later either, if it's something that seems to you were wrong about. For instance, podcasting. When podcasts started, I was like, I don't know. I don't really need a podcast. Right. And then, a few months later, like more people were getting podcasts, and Jim was like, hey, we should get a podcast. And all right, let's figure out how to get a podcast. And then we taught people how to get a podcast, and, it became a thing. And now I really enjoy it. They're a lot of fun. You've done over 100 and I've done almost 200. And, it's just.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done the 100 if I didn't have you helping me, though. I'd still be on episode 3. So, but that's, the big thing, I think, just bringing it back around to being an authentic expert or being an expert also is it's not being an expert is not an event. So a lot of people think that someday I will arrive, someday I will be an expert. And when I am an expert, or when I'm an industry expert, when I'm a celebrity, when I'm a whatever, then life will be perfect. I will just know what to do. It's kind of like when you were a little kid, you thought someday when I'm an adult, I'll have this stuff handled. There's going to be this magical transition from kid to adult where I will just know things. I will just be able to and it hadn't happened yet. I'm still waiting. I'm a 5-year-old trapped in a 53-year-old's body. And the thing is, it's a process. I know people, and I've seen people along the way. If you liken this industry, this whole world, to a caravan, I've seen guys pull over to the side of the road and just kind of say, okay, I made it. I'm like, dude, that's a rest stop on the way. That's not, you're not done. You're never done. You're never done learning. You're never done figuring stuff out. You're never done communicating. I mean, you can go back, even if there's just a real finite amount of stuff that you teach and do, you always need to go back and revisit the fundamentals. You need to go back and see how the world has changed and how those principles need to be applied either more or less differently in different spots. I mean, when you and I did DIY Media Marketing Academy, we taught for a year, we taught the 12 things, the 12 fundamentals. And then the next year we went back and we taught what had changed.
Yeah.
That pissed a couple people off, but most people were like, wow, I've never seen that approach before, where it's just, okay, here's what's changed in this, and this has changed, this has changed, this has changed. So I think that's important too, is just keeping up with the changes can be a full-time job as well. So anyway.
No, I like that one. That was really good. I have been using this analogy to describe what mental toughness is, and it might work for this as well. I use the analogy as long-term investments, but you can only deposit $1 a day, right? So it's just this consistency that occurs. Every day you're doing something. Every day you're adding something,
right?
And that's how it occurs. So whether it's mental toughness or it's becoming the expert, it's becoming the go-to person in your field. Just takes one day at a time. Consistency is the key.
And taking it back to the workout analogy, not too long ago, I had just gotten so burnt out that, I mean, this is within the last couple of months, that I took 2 weeks off. I was just like, okay, not doing nothing for 2 weeks. I'm gonna sit on this couch. I went from level 0 to level 255 in Call of Duty. I spent like literally 4 full days, whatever 4 times 24 is, 96 hours total screen time. And when I came back to working out, it was painful. It was painful. And the thing is, it in a surprisingly short period of time, you can lose your edge with your expertise. You got to do a little something every single day to keep your head in the game. And that's one of the reasons why we do these shows and other things, is because if I can sharpen up one idea, if I can have one little insight, if I can have somebody ask me one question that makes me think with just a little bit different English on it, sometimes that can be the key that changes everything, that'll launch you in a whole different direction. When I remember the conversation I had with Susan, my assistant, and I was driving back from visiting my dad after his cancer surgery, and we were talking about wizards and scripts and stuff, and we came up with the idea of the avatar and having the avatar script to feed all the other scripts. And just that one conversation, just trying, always every day thinking about how can we get better, how can we make things better, has hit that geometric point where I think over half the scripts inside of Funnel Scripts are now avatar enabled. We're working on the ones in the Jim Edwards Method Premium. And it's just that cause set in motion with that focus every single day. It's kind of like that old thing of, would you rather have, a dollar a day for the rest of your life, or would you rather have a penny and double it for the next 30 days? What would you rather have? And because if you double the penny every day for 30 days, it comes out to like, I don't know, 30 million bucks or 100 million bucks or something like that. So, but I'm sure the same thing applies, that if you were to get 1% better every day, just 1% better in some way every single day, what would that translate into as far as the quality of your life? I think it would be significant.
I'm going to share something with you, and you're right. Sometimes these little shows or these kind of conversations that you have, and I thank the audience for taking a moment to listen to, because Jim and I had a conversation the other day where he just asked me about Lulu Express on my Shopify store, which is basically an automated way to sell your book on your website. And it goes directly to the printer. They drop ship it for you. I mean, it's seamless. And so he asked me about it, and I had thought about doing it. And I'm so glad that Jim asked, because he put the fire under me to just figure it out so I could tell him how to do it and what it's doing. I have put all of my books up on that, which there's probably 35 different ones that I had to upload and do everything for. But it saves an hour and a half to 2 hours a day
What?
Administrative work right now. Yes. I just opened up an hour and a half to 2 hours a day of my day.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So it was a huge change. If you have a lot of products, it's, written products, it's very, it's highly recommended. But,
That's amazing.
Just those little conversations like that, just opens up more time in your day to do things. And I'm not saying that's making me an expert at anything. It's just one of those things that, because I am keeping my eyes open, keeping my ears open, listening, and I find these little ideas that somehow life whispers to you, and you just go with it, and it opens up the whole avenue to drive you a little bit more forward, a little more focus.
That's pretty cool on that Lulu thing. That's
huge.
That's a big deal. Plus, people are probably getting their books faster because there's no delay between when they order and when you place the order on Lulu.
True.
So I just did this on my Excel, and I said, okay, what would happen if you got 1% better every day? And so if you started out as a 1, so you were at 100% today, and you got 1% better every day for 365 days, then you would be, at the end of 365 days, you would be 3,740.93% better. So you would be 3,700 times better than you are today. Damn. If you got 1% better every single day because of that compounding effect. That's kind of cool. I mean, I like to do stupid stuff like that on.
37 times better is good.
Yeah. No, 37,000 times better.
Oh, is that right?
Or 3,700. It's a lot. Okay. It's a lot.
Okay. 370.
There you go.
Who knows?
Okie doke. So I think that's it.
I think that's it.
That is our show.
That's plenty, people. Plenty.
I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone who joined us live on the website at jimandstewshow.com, where you get extra special treatment. I would remind everybody, when you go to jimandstewshow.com, you can click the link to get a free copy of my Big Black Book, the Sales, Copy, and Content Marketing Big Black Book. That gives you 94 of the greatest tips, tricks, and tools and advice ever shared about copywriting and content marketing for free. We actually put that book together is the transcripts, the edited transcripts of the first 100 episodes that we did of Sales, Copywriting, Content Marketing Hacks podcast. So there's a ton of great information in there. And it's funny, somebody asked, well, are you going to sell the audio edition? I said, no, you can listen to the podcast for free. These are the transcripts of the podcast. I actually had some people say, wow, that they had to think about it. But the big thing I would tell you is that if you want to get better, you just got to do something every day. And this, I think I heard it from Jim Rohn, or I don't remember where, but if you want to be great, first you got to be good. Before you can be good, you got to be bad. And before you can be bad, you have to try. So if you're trying, you're on your way to greatness. And I've always remembered that, and remembered that, the faster I try, the faster I can make it through bad, through good to great. So just think about that. Everybody have a wonderful day. Stu, thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye, everybody.